Okay, so this next testimony I entitled, Mommy, I Can Help You. It was when my mother, in 2005, she had a stroke. And she went to live with my brother in Boston. And I found out that my brother had her in a nursing home or whatever, and she stayed down there for several years. Well, once I got on this venture, once I got on this journey, I wanted my mom to be up here so that she can reap the benefits of what I was learning. And so I asked my brother, could he, bring her up here for her to stay with me? And he did. So she stayed with me. And when she came over, my mom was, my mom is funny. She was wheelchair and bed bound. She wasn't walking. She was talking and she was feeding herself, and she had a very healthy appetite, so that was good. And the diagnosis that they gave her were the common diagnosis that they gave all elderly people at her age, and things that I was familiar with by working in the nursing home. So that diabetes, hypertension, and I was able to address those. So anyway, she came on with about 12 medications, and immediately I weaned her down to the most the most difficult to wean a person from, at least in my opinion. And so I weaned her at least down to about 5. And so anyway, my mother, my sister and I was taking care of her together. We were switching shifts because I worked the nights and she worked days, and so that worked out fine. My sister really didn't want to. She didn't want that responsibility, and although she did it, I always felt like I was doing something that she didn't want, which I was doing something that she didn't want to do, and I felt a little pressure from that. Not only that, but my mom has 7 kids, 7 children, and not all of us are on the same level as far as trusting God. As we're on all different levels. And so I knew that I had to be careful about what I would be doing with my mother and her medications, or her experience with the doctors and things like that, because my brothers and sister may have um, they may have accused me or been angry with me for not doing something that they felt like I should have, because they believed in it. And that could be kind of a whatever. But God is the one that brought my mother to me, so that I knew that my final decision is what was going to count. Now, my mother, before she got a little bit deep into the stroke situation, before her mentality started slipping a little bit, she appointed me as attorney over her health care decisions. Now, my mother and we used to be on the phone for hours talking about God and talking about health, talking about a bunch of issues. And my mom, at one time, she believed in Armstrong and his teachings about health and everything, but she did not believe that she didn't have to go to doctors. And so she studied. She was self-taught on herbs. And my mother knew herbs. She knew herbs tremendously. And anyone, in fact, all the neighbors and everything would come to her and ask her, will explain their problem to her and ask her what they should be taking. And she would tell them what tea to take and all of this stuff. And so anyway, my mother and I used to be, I don't want to say we used to always be in a debate, but my mother always challenged what I was learning in the nursing field. She would always challenge that and just say things that I didn't know. Anyway, that was an issue with me and my mom. My mother one time came over to my house, and my oldest son had a headache, and I told him, because this is all I knew at that time. I told him, I said, go lay down, and when you wake up, that headache is going to be gone. And that's all I knew at that time. Well, my mother was like, that just don't make no sense. She being the loving, caring grandmother, she was like, you can do something about that. Give him this herb, or give him some of this tea right here, and take care of that. And so I used to tell my mom, I used to say, God don't need our help. He doesn't need our help. And so she used to say, well, God gave us common sense to work our common sense in areas that we can work it. And I told her, I said, I just disagree with that. I don't think God needs our help. Didn't know to the extent that that was really going to be a challenge with me. In fact, I was really going to have to stand with what I just said to my mother. That was going to have to be proven to me. So anyway, I wouldn't let her give my son the herb or anything, and he went to sleep and everything. And when he woke up, the headache was gone, just like I said. I said the end. So anyway, we used to always have debates and stuff like that. So I'm saying that to say that, give you a little history of me and my mom. So when my mom came over and I began to start sharing with her things that God was telling me or teaching me and causing me to learn, and she would just say, I don't believe that. And she used to say that. And at one time, I just came to this point because she would just tell me no about everything. And I believe that she was getting flashbacks about how her and I used to be in debates and stuff about her knowledge and my knowledge and whatever. And she would always challenge. So anyway, I remember Jesus told me when my mother was answering me, I don't believe you and I'm not going to, whatever. Christ came to me and he says, remember, a prophet is not without honor except in his own house, among his own people, in his own town. And I said, that is exactly right, cuz it seemed like not only was my mother rejecting things that I was sharing with her, and I understand that if that's against what you believe in, I am not going to push that on you, but I used to get offended by that because it was like, you don't believe that you don't trust me that I'm going to give you the best care that I can give you, that I'm not going to let you, I don't know. I did get offended. So anyway, when he revealed that scripture to me about no prophet is without honor except among his own people, I knew that my brothers and sisters and my mother, because we were all on different levels in our journey, that they were not going to accept what I was doing. They were not going to accept the way that I was being led to overcome issues that was going on in my mother's life as well as in my life. They were not going to agree with that. So I took very careful decision making to make sure that I wasn't just forcing my own issue on her, and so that God would be behind me and take up for me when I needed that to be taken up for. So anyway, that's what I went through. And what had happened was, after about 2 years, I allowed my mother telling me, I don't believe you. I don't, she pretty much just rejected everything. And so I had to honor what she wanted and what she didn't want as far as her being coherent and able to handle whatever she could handle. I had to let that be her way. And so when she like when she didn't want to when she didn't want to accept a lot of things, I kind of took offense to that. I did. Here's where my fault was. I kind of took offense. I know I took offense of that, and I kind of just backed off. And I mean, I still played her teaching tapes, and I still talked to her, and I still told her stories. My mom used to laugh at me when I used to tell her about, God gave us the ability to heal, and He's going to allow us to overcome that. And I said, and if we allowed our mind to create a crooked or weak body, and we walking around like this, God comes in and is like, okay, I'm going to help you with that. Get that straightened back out. And you get another chance to straighten it back out. And she used to crack up at my stories. But anyway, that was a fun time. So here's my point with my mom. My mom used to get stage 2 bed sores. And they were about the size of the head of this pen. You see that at the bottom? You see it? They were about that size. And stage 1. So I caught them early, and I used to command. Now, this is the way I was learning to pray, that whosoever say unto this mountain, be thou removed, and be thou cast into the sea, and shall not doubt in his heart, but shall believe that what he saith shall come to pass, he shall have what they say. And in Mark 16, these signs shall follow those that believe in me. In my name you shall cast out, he's talking about that. And it gets down to, you shall lay hands on the sick, and they shall recover. And so I kept that point in my mind, and I kept the other point in my mind. And while I'm looking at this bed wound, like I said, it was about the size of the head of this pen, I said, okay, he said that these signs shall follow those who believe. And so I believed, just like I've been doing all before my mother got there, praying for other people, praying for people in the nursing home. I just believed. And so I commanded my mother's bed sores to leave her body in the name of Jesus and to close up. And I spoke that, and then I walked away. I left it alone. Because I remember that water issue when I spoke to the water, and I went upstairs and the water increased. And remember, God taught me to remember what you said. So I started focusing on the things that I said. I commanded that bed sore to leave that body in the name of Jesus. And the reason being that I'm not going to go there. That's when I'm my advanced stages. But anyway, okay, so 3 days, 2 to 3 days, those bed sores used to heal up. I mean, close up. And the CNA that we had coming by helping us with my mother's bed bath and things like that, she saw that they were closed up. And she would say, wow, what happened to her bed sores? And I told her, I said, God did that. And she was like, oh, wow. She just really accepted that. And so I did my mother, caring for my mother was that kind of experience. And I'm not going to say that I always had the right attitude about taking care of my mother. My mother was 24/7, and I got tired. I got tired after 2 years. I got tired, and I needed a break. And so that's when my little sister, she said, I'll take care of Ma for a while, so I passed her to my little sister. Now, God never told me to pass my mother over to my little sister. Be mindful of that. He never instructed me to do that. I did that on my own. For whatever reason, I didn't have a life. I wasn't able to go out anywhere. I wasn't able to do anything. That my life was taking care of my mom, and I was willing to do that for a while. It's just that, evidently I didn't have fortitude that I thought I had. So anyway, I let my mom go with my sister, and my sister had her for about 2 years, and my mother's was still getting bed sores. And my sister told me about her bed sore, and I went over there when I was visiting her one day, and my sister said, I was watching her change my mother, and my mother had a bed wound that was about the size of this, or it was about the size of a seat. Well, not quite this big, but it was huge, and you can see the flesh and everything in there. She had to pack it, and I know about that, and I was just like, to myself, and I was trying to talk to my sister, and she didn't want to hear. She didn't want to hear how God had me maintaining my mother's bed sores. And so my mother, that stayed there for a long while. And I wanted to get my mother back, but I couldn't because, I don't know. The family members were telling my sister, you don't have to listen to Dolores, which is, you don't have to listen to Dolores because you have to deal with mommy according to your relationship with God. And they were telling the truth in that I couldn't impose what I knew about God on her, but if she was open enough to receive it, it would have worked for her the same way it worked through me, and she would have seen my mother healed in those areas. So, I just had to accept that. And I never got a chance to get my mom back because in 2014, something happened to me, which we're going to go through a little bit, but something happened to me, and they had to put her in a nursing home for a short period of time. It was supposed to be till I got out with my situation, but she passed there at that facility. And that's exactly what I didn't want to happen to my mom. I didn't want her last days to be in a nursing home. So that really crushed me. But anyway, let me tell you something that I learned about that. Everybody is going to be on different levels in their faith where they are. And we cannot get upset because people don't want to listen or don't want to know what's going on with God on this level. We can't be upset about that. However, the suffering that comes along with them not knowing that, if they get the suffering, in other words, that suffering and that affliction is to make them wake up. Are you getting healed or cured? Are you finding peace? If you're finding peace, then you're on the right track. If you're going through these problems in peace, then you're on the right track. Now, you might not immediately have the cure or the problem solved immediately. It might take some time. But the point is, are you in the right attitude? Are you able to stay in there with the right attitude? Like when my mom was with me and I got tired, that was not the right attitude because God was giving me the strength that it took to take care of her. And I knew that, but I just didn't turn to that to strengthen me because I wanted that break. So it was a selfish thing, but I guess, what I've learned also is you're going to make mistakes. You are not going to do everything exactly the way God tells you to do them. You try, but in the beginning, especially in the beginning phases, you will not do things all like that. So you're going to have to forgive yourself. And you're going to have to put that in the past, and you're going to have to keep moving forward. And that's what I had to do. I had to keep going through what I was going through with God, him teaching me, and me not getting discouraged and letting that bring me down. You know, like I said, my mom passed in 2014, and I dealt with that, and my family dealt with that, and now I'm moving forward. So, yeah, thank you.